This is the first time we are going to be talking about a new Disney Channel show. Normally, we take a walk down memory lane, but this show only came out last year. I stopped watching Disney around 2016, 2017, so I'm not familiar with shows such as Bizarre Bark and Stuck in the Middle. I would say it's because I outgrew Disney Channel, but I was watching Bluey the other day, so I'm guessing I just didn't see this show. So we are going to see what Disney has to offer. So we are going back to Disney to see what they have to offer. To start this journey into finding my love for Disney Channel again, we are watching The Villains of Valley View. Firstly, I decided to watch the trailer. They tell you all the powers of the main cast. This is Amy, she has sonic abilities. This is Jake, super strength. Colby, shapeshifting. The mum controls electricity, and the dad is smart. Okay, maybe smart is the wrong word. He's good with machinery. I take smart back because he does get outwitted by 16-year-olds a lot. But the main thing I noticed in the trailer was two familiar faces. Lucy Davis from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and Patricia Belcher from Good Luck Charlie, and Bones. Those are two very different shows that she was doing at the same time. I just keep imagining one day she's fighting with a 10-year-old and the next day she's catching a serial killer. Get you a girl who can do both. The trailer tells us how the family of villains is not only on the run from heroes, like you'd expect, but the family is also on the run from other villains, and we are left to wonder why. We won't have to wonder why long, because they tell you in the first episode, but from the trailer you have to wait a bit. I watched the whole season 1, but I'm mainly going to be talking about the pilot and a second episode, and my overall opinion of the show. So sit back, relax, and drink some white hot chocolate, which is really good. I recently started drinking it with oatmeal. It is amazing. I'm getting distracted. Let's go to the TV show. Starting with the first episode, we are introduced to the landlady, Celia, and her granddaughter, Hartley. These two interrupt family movie night to demand rent. Throughout the season, Celia just enters their home unannounced with a key that is very illegal, but they can't really call the police because they're on the run, so they kind of just have to deal with it. The family acts weird, and Celia asks them questions, and they give inconsistent answers.
Remind me where you're from again.
Taiwan.
Then we are shown a flashback from when they used to be villains. 2 weeks ago in Centropolis, I wonder what that's based on, the Central City, and Metropolis. We see the group of villains villaining away. After the mum gets back to their lair, she announced that she has been passed over for a promotion to Chief Commander for the League of Villains. Havoc, this is her, goes to the headquarters to demand that her mum gets the job. The leader guy here, Onyx, we don't see him, apparently he doesn't have a face, says, "No, your mum's rubbish, she's a loser, we don't like her." Havoc then attacks the head of the League of Villains, so then the family has to go into hiding. Back to the present day. The show then follows the main characters, Amy, and we know she's the main character because she's the only one who gets the best friend in season 1. If you notice, Disney normally only gives the main character. Here are a few instances. Jake is scolding Amy for using her powers recklessly when the family is meant to be hiding out. They are having this conversation very loud. He is not whispering, and there are people behind them. Realistically, they could hear this whole thing. They are arm's length away.
Amy, did you use your sonic power to mimic the bell so you could get out of class early?
They do this throughout the season, just having quiet conversations very loudly in public places. Don't know why. Jake is actually trying to assimilate to his new life. He starts by trying to convince Amy to be good with him. Amy says no. Jake says just give it a try, and he manages to convince her to hang out with Hartley, their landlady's granddaughter. Back at home, Vic turns the microwave into a dimensional one-way prison because he's bored, and Colby finally gets his superpowers. Up until now, he had no powers. He's a shapeshifter. They don't really explain why Colby is at home in the middle of the day whilst the other children are at school. They are trying to stay under the radar, so having truancy officers at your door. Later in the day, Hartley comes over to hang out with Amy, and Hartley starts talking about the hero Starlin who defeated Amy, and Amy gets mad, and then she takes her dad's new toy and tries to send Hartley to another dimension. Jake tries to stop her. He's good now, and he realizes sending people to different dimensions when you're mad is not a good thing to do. I just remembered Heinz Doofenshmirtz did that too.
Hey, sweetheart, how'd you like to take a ride on a real bike? She's 16!
Whilst Jake is trying to stop Amy from sending Hartley to another dimension, he accidentally sends Hartley there himself. Yeah, he's not really doing a great job at being good, but at least it's the thought that counts. Celia comes to get Hartley, so Colby uses his new shapeshifting abilities to turn into her to buy them some time. Amy eventually decides she has to go and get Hartley because her grandmother shows up asking for her, not because she had a change of heart and realised it was quite cruel to send someone to a different dimension just because they laughed. This is only because Celia showed up. Yeah, I don't think Jake's getting through to her. Hartley, whilst in another dimension, only figures out who Amy is after she uses her powers to stop a giant rock from crushing them. I do not know how the evil-looking dimensional prison wasn't a big enough clue that she was a villain, but at least they got there in the end. Eventually Jake comes to save them, and Hartley covers for the family because she's a really nice person, also naive. Because Hartley covers for the family, Amy agrees to be her best friend forever. They're gonna get matching necklaces and everything. They didn't say that, I just made that. But they might. I would be a bit hesitant to befriend these people who are apparently wanted murderers. They're known for blowing things up and torturing people, but sure, befriend them. Who needs enemies when you have friends like these? In episode 2, they continue from the pilot, which I found very interesting because Disney pilots, they tend to have mainly standalone episodes in season 1. And in case you don't know what a standalone episode is, it is episodes that can be watched in any order that does not require any prior viewing. So this could be the first episode, but in the Villains of Valley View, there are multiple connected episodes. In fact, all the episodes from episode 1 to episode 15 have at least a small or big callback to one of the previous episodes. I would also like to note these creators also did this for Labrats. Now moving on to episode 2, they continue on from episode 1 because after the family secret has been found out by Hartley, the family conclude they have to blackmail her to make sure she keeps the secret even though she promised not to tell anyone. Vic and Amy have a battle to see who can blackmail her better. They're really not giving this villain thing up, are they? They're meant to be retired. This is not retiring, blackmailing a 16-year-old. Due to their blackmailing competition, Vic ends up getting a job at the school and he works there for the rest of the season. My overall opinions after watching the first 2 episodes were that this show reminds me a lot of other shows that I watched when I was younger. It heavily reminds me of the Thunderbirds as they are a superhero family hiding out, so it's just that concept flipped on its head. It also reminds me of Wizards of Waverly Place, even down to the sibling dynamic, the daughter, middle child, troublemaker, the older brother who claims to be a goody two-shoes but does as much bad things as his younger sister, but just claims superiority, Justin Russo. And the similarities between these 2 shows was reinforced for me when Colby transformed into an old man. I'm not going to explain that, you have to watch the show. He was an old man for a duration of time, and whilst being an old man, they make a joke about him finding something on the floor that he thinks is a chocolate chip, and then it might not be a chocolate chip, and it might be mice droppings. They also made this exact same joke in Wizards of Waverly Place, but with Max in like season 1 or 2. So it's definitely a connection between the 2 shows for me, and it obviously also reminds me of Labrats since they're made by the same creators. There are so many similarities with Labrats, such as a secret lair, a school that is way too silent. Not to mention, Celia and Principal Perry are 2 sides of the same coin. They are both women with concerning pasts who always get what they want and are constantly violating people's privacy. Honestly, they are icons. As I mentioned before, I did watch the whole season. I would like to point out, from episode 4 onwards, Colby does not leave the house for multiple episodes due to varying factors, such as being stuck as a towel, a sledgehammer, and as a puppet. We only see him at school a couple of times, which is weird because the school is one of the main sets. Even after they made a joke about how he doesn't go to school, he then does not go to school more. He attended classes twice. Let's hope he got his dad smart because he's not getting a high school diploma. My 2 favourite characters so far are Amy and Celia. Amy is the only one who actually seems evil in her family. The rest of them just kind of seem stupid and irresponsible. And Celia is just an icon, living her best life whilst terrorizing the family who used to terrorize other people. So if anything, this is just karma for them. They were going around destroying cities, ruining lives, and now this woman is going to be a pain in their behind for the rest of time. Let's also talk about Jake. Jake has super strength, but no form of resistance, so he can get hurt just as easily as anyone else, and to me it seems like a design flaw. Realistically, if he threw something up in the air and his hand slipped, he could crush himself, and it's insane to me. Why is he not invulnerable? Like, you'd think super strength would come with invulnerability, but no. He has the strength of a gorilla and the defenses of a dodo bird, and he's not the only one with power flaws. Colby, when he is transformed, if something happens to him, it will affect his real body. So if he turned himself into a tree and someone walked past and snapped off a branch, when he turned back, would he then not have an arm? Spoilers for the rest of the show, past episode 2. At some point, Colby gets regeneration abilities, which aren't just, but supervillains are meant to only have have one power, so if he didn't get that power, how would he survive? It's very established that supervillains get one power, but Colby's special. Assuming other people can have similar powers, does that mean there's someone out there who has the same shape-shifting abilities but does not have the regeneration ability? So would they just die? I guess we'll never know. Okay, I got distracted. Continuing on my train of thought about Colby's regeneration abilities, if I took his head off, would it then grow back? Or how much of him could I rip off before he dies? Like, I'm not planning to. A round of applause for the outfits in this show, especially Amy. They are very realistic. I was thinking back to the outfits that characters used to wear in the 2010s, and it's a drastic improvement. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I'm being too harsh. Fashion changes over time. No, those outfits were bad. They were horrendous, and actually I think they were a crime. Probably will watch season 2. And the creators of this, as I mentioned before, also made Labrats. And when I think about this compared to season 1 of Labrats, they have clearly improved. They still have the empty hallways though. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoy, leave a like, and suggest any shows that you want me to talk about. Okay, bye!